feel that? That's the sound of reality hitting the wall. That's the sound of what happens when you're cornered. And make no mistake, you are cornered. Not by physical walls, not by barbed wire fences, but by something far more insidious. This week we're talking about a padded cell. Not one with soft walls and a rubber floor, but one constructed from your own confirmation bias. It's a subtle prison, isn't it? Every voice you hear is an echo of your own. Every thought you entertain, pre-approved by the digital gatekeepers and the tribes you cling to. They've sold you certainty, a cozy little delusion where you're always right, where your beliefs are unassailable. But in doing so, they've stolen your mind. They've traded your critical thinking for a comforting hum of agreement. You're losing the ability to genuinely connect with or even understand those outside your bubble. The roar of agreement inside your chamber drowns out everything else. The fear of dissent, the gut-wrenching terror of being wrong, stifles any urge to challenge your own assumptions. It creates an intellectual stagnation so profound, so complete that you stop growing, you stop questioning. You become a predictable node in a network of controlled information, a loyal soldier in a war of narratives you barely understand. And what's the ultimate consequence? A tribalism so deep, so vicious, that it feels like the very fabric of shared reality is tearing apart. We can't even agree on what's real anymore because we're all trapped in our own curated versions of truth. What happens when the walls close in and the only sound is the scream of your own unchallenged thoughts, forever alone in your truth? This is screaming in an echo chamber. Let's get started.
835 feet.
Do you remember Plato? That old Greek bastard who talks about caves and Atlantis. I think we talked about him last week. Plato had these people chained in a cave, facing a wall. Behind them, a fire, and people carrying objects, making shadows dance on the wall. The prisoners, never seeing anything else, believed these flickering shadows were the ultimate reality. That was their world, their truth. They lived, they breathed, they argued, they believed in those shadows. He was talking about ignorance, about the illusion of perception, about being fooled by what's presented to you. But he was also talking about you, Project Mayhem, before you even knew it, before the internet was even a wet dream in some tech bro's Y-fronts. You're living in a cave. Only this time, you built the walls yourself. Or rather, you let someone else build them around you, feed you the exact brick and mortar that you asked for. The shadows flickering across your screen aren't just cat videos and memes, although God knows there's enough of those. They're the carefully curated projections of your own desires, your own fears, your own pre-existing beliefs. You clicked on that article about how terrible political party X is. Boom. The algorithm noted. You liked that post confirming your specific worldview on climate change or vaccination or whatever grand narrative you've decided to adopt. Bingo. The algorithm logged it. These unseen puppet masters are constantly feeding you more of what you already consume, reinforcing what you already believe. It's a self-licking ice cream cone of confirmation. You like conspiracy theories? Well, here's another deep dive into lizard people. You hate capitalism? Here's a dozen think pieces explaining its inevitable collapse. You think the world is ending on Tuesday? Here are the daily doomsday headlines, served fresh, delivered straight to your eyeballs. Because that's what you engage with. That's what gets the clicks, the likes, and the shares. That's what keeps you in the cave. This isn't about being informed. This is about being affirmed. It's about the psychological comfort of never being wrong, of never having your worldview shaken. Every click and every like tightens the chains, makes the shadows more vivid, more real, more your truth. You're not seeking truth, you're seeking echoes. You're not exploring, you're reinforcing. You're not broadening your horizons, you're digging deeper into the trench you've already dug. And the irony is that you think you're enlightened. You think you've seen through the bullshit. You believe you're the one who's woke, who's red-pilled, who's finally seen the light. But you are just staring at a different set of shadows, convinced they're the ultimate reality because everyone in your cave agrees. Your tribe, your feed, your little digital cult. They all nod in unison, assuring you of your infallible intellectual superiority. And God forbid someone tries to unchain you. God forbid someone tries to drag you out into the glare of the actual sun, the untidy, contradictory, inconvenient truth of the outside world. You'd probably scream, kick, and call them an idiot for disrupting your comfortable illusion. You'd rather stay in the dark, safe with your self-imposed blindness, than face the uncomfortable truth that your reality might be just one of many, and perhaps not even the most accurate. You'd rather believe the shadows are the only reality because it's easier. It requires no effort, no discomfort, no genuine thought. This isn't some grand conspiracy. It's just a natural, lazy human tendency to seek comfort and avoid cognitive dissonance, amplified a million times over by algorithms designed to keep your eyeballs glued to a screen. It's the path of least resistance for your brain, and you're falling for it. You're not a rebel, you're a consumer, passively accepting the product of your own biases, and the longer you stay in that digital cave, the more the shadows become your masters. Jürgen Habermas, a German intellectual born in 1929 in Dusseldorf, social theorist in the tradition of critical theory and pragmatism. He talked about something crucial, something that in our current digital cesspool feels like a ghost story. He talked about the public sphere. Think of it. Picture it in your mind. The town square. Not some sanitized tourist trap version, but a real gritty, vibrant place. A place where people, regardless of their background, rich, poor, merchant, farmer, educated, uneducated, could come together. They'd stand on soapboxes, they'd argue, they'd listen, they'd challenge each other. They'd hash things out, they'd use reason, or at least try to. And through that messy, often passionate exchange, they would collectively share public opinion. This wasn't some utopian dream of universal agreement. Habermas was no fool. He knew people disagreed. But the ideal was a place of open, rational debate, a space where ideas could clash, where evidence could be presented, where arguments could be dismantled and rebuilt. A place where the best ideas would emerge victorious, not because they were loudest or most emotionally charged, but because they stood up to scrutiny. It was a place where you could actually talk to people who didn't think exactly like you. You might not agree, but you could at least understand why they thought what they thought. There was a shared ground, a common stage for the intellectual boxing match. Now, look around you. Really look. Where's that town square? Take a moment, try to find it. You can't, can you? Because it's not just gone, it's been blown to hell. It's not a town square anymore, it's a haunted house. Full of whispers and screams, but no actual dialogue, no shared understanding. Just a cacophony of isolated, self-important pronouncements. The digital age promised us the ultimate public sphere. It promised to connect us all, to break down geographical barriers, to democratize information, to give a voice to everyone. Remember that naive optimism? The early days of the internet, when everyone thought this was going to be the great equalizer, the ultimate forum for human connection and enlightenment. What a terrible, desperate misconception. Instead of giving us a vast, interconnected marketplace of ideas, it splintered us into a million tiny, self-referential bubbles, each one a miniature echo chamber, a digital cult of personality, a self-congratulatory clique. Instead of a shared space for reasoned debate, we have Twitter feeds full of outrage porn, where nuanced discussion goes to die in a fire of 280-character hot takes. We have Facebook groups that are just glorified fan clubs for specific ideologies, where dissent is quickly flagged, ridiculed, or simply deleted. We have YouTube channels that preach only to the choir, building immense followings by telling people exactly what they want to hear and vilifying anyone who thinks differently. It's not about finding common ground. It's about proving your side is right, even if it means fabricating evidence, distorting facts, or simply blaming the other. It's about performance, not persuasion. It's about virtue signaling, not genuine inquiry. You don't try to change minds, you try to show your tribe how loyal you are, how perfectly you embody the approved ideology. You collect likes, not insights. You accumulate followers, not understanding. And the media, oh, the media. Forget about it. It's no longer a neutral arbiter of facts. That concept is as dead as disco. It's a partisan player, openly or subtly tailoring its content to its chosen audience. It feeds the echo chamber, it doesn't challenge it. It amplifies the tribal divisions, it doesn't bridge them. News isn't news anymore. It's affirmation. It's entertainment. It's a constant low-level hum of agreement that makes you feel smart and righteous, never truly uncomfortable. It's designed to keep you clicking, to keep you outraged, to keep you engaged, which in this context simply means keeping you locked in your bubble. Think about the incentives. News organizations now more than ever rely on clicks and engagement. They need you to be outraged. They need you to feel validated. They need you to share their content within your echo chamber. Nuance doesn't go viral. Shared understanding doesn't generate ad revenue. What generates revenue is controversy, division, and emotional highs. So they feed you the red meat you crave, ensuring you never leave their digital corral. They don't want you to think, they want you to react. So Habermas is ideal? It's a ghost. A phantom limb of what society once aspired to be. The public sphere, the place where genuine reason and open debate were supposed to thrive, has been carved up and sold off to the highest bidder, or simply fragmented into a million pieces by algorithmic happenstance and human nature's darker impulses. It's now a collection of private echo chambers, each insulated from the others, each convinced of its own unassailable truth. And the only thing being discussed is how right we are and how wrong they are. There's no common dictionary, no shared set of facts, no agreed upon rules of engagement. Just screams, just accusations, just condemnation. And the result? A society that can no longer talk to itself. A society where every disagreement becomes a battle, where every differing opinion is met with suspicion, hostility, or outright hatred. A society where genuine understanding is a rare, almost revolutionary act. Every conversation is just a louder scream into the void, bouncing off the walls of your own curated reality. We don't persuade, we proselytize. We don't debate, we denounce. We don't listen, we wait for our turn to retort. This isn't just about politics, Project Mayhem. This bleeds into everything. Science, culture, morality. We can't agree on basic facts, let alone complex solutions. We demonize doctors, reject scientific consensus, dismiss artistic expression because it doesn't align with our narrow tribal sensibilities. We have become so consumed by our internal narratives, so validated by our digital tribes, that the very capacity for empathy, for imagining ourselves in someone else's shoes, is withering. The death of the public sphere isn't just an academic concept, it's a living, breathing cancer, eating away at the possibility of collective action, at the very foundation of a functioning society. How do you solve global problems like climate change or pandemics or economic inequality when half the population lives in a completely different factual universe than the other half? When every proposed solution is immediately filtered through a partisan lens and rejected simply because of who proposed it? You don't. You can't. You just keep screaming past each other, louder and louder, until the only sound left is the ringing in your own ears. And the public square is truly silent, haunted only by the ghosts of conversations that never happened. The lights are out, the doors are locked, and no one's listening anymore. Just a broken radio, hissing and popping, broadcasting static and fear. Let's be honest. Let's strip away the layers of self-deception and get down to the squishy, sad truth of what makes you tick. Being challenged sucks. Being told you're wrong, even worse. The sheer squirming discomfort of having your perfectly constructed worldview questioned, poked, prodded, and possibly shattered. It's enough to make you instinctively recoil. Your brain, that fleshy 3-pound organ nestled between your ears, it's not wired for philosophical enlightenment or rigorous intellectual inquiry. It's wired for survival, for efficiency, for comfort, for avoiding pain. And cognitive dissonance, that, my friends, is pain. It's the mental agony you experience when you hold two conflicting beliefs simultaneously. or when new information directly contradicts something you deeply believe to be true. Your brain hates it. It will do everything in its power to avoid that discomfort. It will twist logic, ignore evidence, and even construct elaborate fantasies to maintain internal consistency. It craves a neat, tidy narrative, one where everything makes sense, and most importantly, one where you are right. Enter the echo chamber. It's not just a digital phenomenon, it's a psychological one, manifested online. It's a warm blanket for your mind. It's a psychological spa designed to soothe your anxieties and affirm your existence. Every piece of information you receive inside this chamber confirms what you already believe. Every new voice you encounter is an ally, nodding in agreement, reinforcing your biases. Every argument you hear is a repetition, a reinforcement of your own thoughts, your own prejudices. It's a constant stream of "you're right, you're smart, you're on the side of truth, the righteous, the good." And your brain just purrs. It basks in that warm glow of validation. It gets its hit of dopamine every time your beliefs are confirmed, every time the enemy is ridiculed, every time your tribe celebrates another win. This isn't about being stupid, it's about being human. It's about evolution. We are, at our core, tribal creatures. We crave belonging. We crave certainty. We want to be part of a group, a collective, a tribe. And we want that tribe to validate us, to tell us we're good, we're moral, we're on the right path. For millennia, belonging to a tribe meant survival. Being cast out meant death. So our brains are hardwired to conform, to seek approval from the group, to adopt the group's beliefs as our own. It's a powerful, primal instinct. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic and uncertain, the echo chamber offers a comforting illusion of order and truth. It's a refuge from the bewildering complexity of reality. It's a place where you don't have to think too hard, because all the thinking has already been done for you by your chosen intellectual gurus, your media pundits, your favorite online influencers. They've provided the answers, the narratives, the scapegoats. All you have to do is nod along, share the meme, and feel secure in your shared delusion. You outsource your critical thinking to the collective. But that comfort, that sweet, intoxicating comfort, comes at a devastating price. It's the slow, insidious death of critical thinking. When you're never challenged, you stop examining your own assumptions. You stop questioning your own biases. You become intellectually flabby, a predictable node in a network of controlled information. Your cognitive muscles atrophy from disuse. You become a sheep, albeit a very comfortable one, bleating the same pre-approved slogans as the rest of your flock. You mistake repetition for truth. You confuse consensus within your bubble for universal fact. Think about it. When was the last time you truly sat down and tried to articulate the strongest possible argument against your own most cherished belief? Not to refute it, but to truly understand its foundations, its logic, its compelling points. My guess is never, or not in a very long time at least. Why? Because it's painful. Because it's easier to just scroll past the dissenting voices, or to label them as trolls, idiots, or agents of the other side. Your brain creates elaborate mental firewalls to protect your existing beliefs, constructing filter after filter to keep out anything that might disrupt your comfortable equilibrium. You become proficient at what psychologists call motivated reasoning. You don't reason to find the truth. You reason to protect your pre-existing beliefs. You cherry-pick evidence that supports your view and conveniently ignore or actively discredit evidence that contradicts it. You become an expert at finding flaws in arguments you dislike, while uncritically accepting arguments that confirm your biases, no matter how flimsy their foundations. You convince yourself you're being rational when in reality you're just rationalizing. The scariest part is that you don't even realize you're doing it. You genuinely believe you're an independent thinker, a rebel, a truth seeker, a free spirit who sees through the matrix. You pat yourself on the back for being so discerning, so smart, so aligned with the right way of thinking. but you're just a well-oiled cog in a machine designed to keep you comfortable and compliant, to keep you consuming the pre-digested narratives of your chosen tribe. You're not thinking, you're just reacting in the way the algorithms and your tribal leaders have trained you to react. And the more comfortable you get in that intellectual padded cell, the harder it becomes to break free. Because the truth, the real truth, the inconvenient truth of a complex, unpredictable, ambiguous world is often uncomfortable, jarring, and requires you to admit that you might be wrong. It requires you to confront the possibility that your certainties are built on sand. And who wants to do that when there's an endless stream of validation, of comforting agreement, just a click, a scroll, a post away? Who wants to step into the cold, harsh light of intellectual uncertainty when the warm, fuzzy glow of conformity is so readily available? This isn't about weak will. It's about the fundamental human desire for stability and belonging, twisted and exploited by technology and the relentless pursuit of engagement. You're trading your intellectual autonomy for psychological comfort. You're sacrificing your ability to grow for the fleeting satisfaction of being perpetually right. And while you're luxuriating in that comfortable certainty, your mind is slowly, steadily calcifying. You're not just being a sheep. You're actively choosing to become one, day after day, click after click. And one day, you might wake up and realize you've forgotten how to think for yourself at all. This isn't just about what you believe. That's the comfortable delusion. The real danger, the insidious poison, begins when your beliefs calcify into identity. When your ideas aren't just ideas, but badges. When your convictions aren't just convictions, but the very flag of your tribe. And from that moment on, it stops being about what you think, and it becomes solely about who they are. And they, of course, are the problem. Always them. They are the idiots. They are the evil ones. They are the misguided, the deplorable, the unwashed masses, the elite oppressors, the sheep, the wolves. They are the enemy. Full stop. No nuance, no mitigating factors, just the enemy. This is where the echo chamber metastasizes from a comfortable padded cell into a full-blown raging tribalism. It's not enough to be right. The other side must be fundamentally, irredeemably wrong. Not just mistaken, but morally corrupt. Not just different, but dangerous. Not just holding a different opinion, but actively conspiring against your way of life, your truth, your very existence. When you only hear your own side, when every piece of information fed to you within your digital enclosure reinforces the narrative that your tribe is good, virtuous, intelligent, and pure, and the other tribe is bad, malicious, stupid, and corrupt, you stop seeing people as individuals. You stop seeing them as complex beings with their own experiences, their own fears, their own reasons for believing what they believe. You see them as symbols, caricatures, opponents, targets. Think about the language. It's no longer some people believe or I disagree with their policy. It's those people are trying to destroy our country. It's they are brainwashed. It's you're either with us or against us. The grey areas vanish. The spectrum collapses into a binary. Good versus evil, light versus dark, us versus them. And once you reduce someone to a caricature, once you strip away their humanity, once you assign them to the enemy category, it becomes terrifyingly easy to dismiss them, to demonize them, to dehumanize them. You don't listen to their arguments, you ridicule them. You don't engage with their points, you attribute malice to their intentions. You don't try to understand their perspective, you just confirm your existing belief that they are inherently flawed. Why listen to evil? Why engage with stupidity? Why negotiate with the enemy? This isn't about healthy disagreement or diverse perspectives. Those are the hallmarks of a functioning society, a vibrant public sphere. This is about absolute moral certainty on one side and absolute moral condemnation on the other. Dialogue becomes impossible because there's no common ground, no shared understanding, no willingness to even listen. Every interaction is no longer a conversation to be had, but a battle to be won. A zero-sum game where one side must entirely defeat the other. When was the last time you genuinely tried to understand the nuanced argument of someone from a different political persuasion? Not just to pick holes in it, not to formulate your counter-argument before they've even finished speaking, but to actually comprehend their reasoning, to put yourself in their shoes and genuinely grasp the intellectual and emotional foundations of their worldview. My guess is it's been a while. A long, long while. Because your echo chamber doesn't just confirm your beliefs, it actively disparages the alternatives. It paints the other side as irrational, malicious, or simply foolish. It provides you with ready-made insults, pre-packaged outrage, and a comforting sense of shared grievance. It tells you that anyone who disagrees with your tribe isn't just wrong, they're a threat, they're a danger. They're probably working against your interests, your values, your very existence. And the danger here is not abstract, it's real. When tribalism reaches this fever pitch, shared reality begins to fray. We start living in parallel universes, each with its own facts, its own history, its own villains and heroes. One side sees a government as benevolent and protective, the other sees it as tyrannical and oppressive. One side believes a certain group is marginalized and oppressed, the other believes that same group is privileged and powerful. We look at the same data points, the same events, and interpret them through completely different, ideologically charged lenses. When people can't even agree on what constitutes a fact or what constitutes reality, how the fuck do you solve any problems? How do you build a society? You don't. You descend into a constant state of low-grade conflict where every disagreement is a crisis and every attempt at bridging divides is met with suspicion and contempt. Attempts at finding common ground are seen as weakness or worse, as betrayal to the tribe. Compromise becomes a dirty word. Collaboration is seen as fraternizing with the enemy. This isn't just a political problem, it's a social cancer, eating away at the very possibility of collective action, of shared purpose, of a common future. How do you address climate change when one tribe believes it's a hoax designed to control them, and the other believes it's an existential threat requiring immediate drastic action? How do you manage a pandemic when one tribe sees public health measures as tyranny, and the other sees refusal to comply as murderous negligence? You don't. You fracture. You fragment. You descend into a state of perpetual paralysis and mutual resentment. We are actively unlearning the fundamental skills of civil society: debate, compromise, empathy, critical listening. We are trading these essential tools for the blunt instruments of denunciation, accusation, and tribal purity tests. The public square, once a place for spirited debate, has become a battleground for competing moral armies, each convinced of its own righteousness, each unwilling to yield an inch. And the final chilling consequence? When us versus them becomes only us. When the them is so thoroughly demonized, so completely dehumanized, then the logical next step is the eradication of them. Not necessarily through violence, but through silencing, through exclusion, through the intellectual and social annihilation of anyone who doesn't fit neatly into your tribe's narrative. The scream in the echo chamber becomes a collective roar, aimed not at understanding, but at crushing dissent. And that is how a society tears itself apart, one screaming, self-righteous tribal shout at a time. The us becomes so insulated, so convinced of its own singular truth, that it can no longer tolerate the existence of anything else. So there it is. You're in the padded cell, you're comfortable, you're perpetually right. You're surrounded by the comforting echoes of your own voice, amplified by the digital void. Now what? Are you going to stay there, slowly atrophying your mind, letting your intellectual muscles waste away until you're nothing but a pre-programmed chatbot, parroting the party line, regurgitating the approved slogans of your chosen tribe? Are you going to let your critical thinking rot while the world outside burns, torn apart by the very tribalism you're so comfortably insulated from? Or do you pick up a fucking hammer? This isn't going to be pleasant. Let's get that straight right now. Breaking out of your echo chamber is going to hurt. It's going to be profoundly uncomfortable. It's going to involve confronting ideas that make your stomach churn, that prickle your skin, that ignite a primal urge to recoil and lash out. It's going to involve listening, truly, genuinely listening, to people you've been told are evil, misguided, stupid, or just plain wrong. It's going to involve questioning your own most cherished beliefs, the very foundations of your identity, and the beliefs of your tribe, your digital family, your chosen community. And that is the hardest part, because the ego, that fragile, delicate thing, hates being wrong more than anything. It means actively seeking out dissenting opinions, and I don't mean going to a comment section to argue. I mean going to the source. Read articles from news sources you instinctively distrust, even despise. Don't skim them for flaws to expose. Read them to understand their perspective. Listen to podcasts from thinkers you instinctively disagree with. Watch interviews with people whose politics make your blood boil. Not to refute them, not to win an argument in your head, but to understand them. To trace the logic, however twisted you perceive it to be, that leads them to their conclusions. To try and grasp their underlying assumptions, their values, their fears. This isn't about agreeing with them, it's about comprehending them. It's about building a mental map of their reality, however foreign it may seem to your own. Engage in conversations with people who hold different views, and try to do it with genuine curiosity, not just a loaded rhetorical gun waiting for your turn to fire. Ask open-ended questions. Why do you believe that? What evidence led you to that conclusion? What would it take to change your mind? And here's the kicker. Actually listen to the answer. Don't formulate your counter-argument while they're still speaking. Don't mentally dismiss them before they've finished. Hear them out. Understand their narrative. It's a muscle you've let atrophy and it's going to ache when you start using it again, but you need to start. This also means embracing cognitive dissonance. Lean into the discomfort. When you encounter an idea that challenges your worldview, that sparks that unpleasant jolt in your brain, don't immediately dismiss it. Don't immediately seek out confirmation of your existing belief, running back to the warm embrace of your echo chamber. Instead, sit with the discomfort. Let it marinate. Explore the counter-arguments with an open, if grudging, mind. Ask yourself why you believe what you believe, and be prepared for the answer to be less solid, less rational, less noble than you thought. Be prepared to find that your beliefs might be rooted in tribal loyalty, emotional reactions, or simply repeated exposure, rather than rigorous reason. That's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's a necessary one. This isn't about changing your mind every 5 minutes, becoming a shapeless blob of indecision. That's not the goal. The goal is about building a stronger mind, a more resilient mind, a mind that can withstand the intellectual blows of challenging ideas without shattering into 1,000 pieces. It's about sharpening your own critical faculties so you're not just a passive recipient of pre-packaged truths, easily swayed by the next charismatic demagogue or viral meme. It's about being able to genuinely engage with complexity, to hold multiple perspectives in your mind simultaneously, and to distinguish between reasoned argument and tribalistic dogma. It's the ability to say, I understand why you believe that, even if I still disagree. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's the foundation of genuine dialogue, of a society that can actually discuss its problems instead of just screaming about them. It's the ability to find common ground, even if it's just the common ground of shared humanity and a mutual recognition of differing perspectives. This is about intellectual courage, the courage to be wrong, the courage to admit you don't know everything, the courage to step outside the comforting, mind-numbing glow of your digital cave and face the harsh, messy, contradictory light of actual reality. The courage to realize that your certainties might be illusions and that the world is far more complicated and nuanced than your simplified narratives allow. It's about becoming a critical thinker again, instead of just a well-informed robot programmed to react on cue. It's an individual act of rebellion against the algorithms, against the tribal leaders, against your own lazy brain. It's choosing discomfort over complacency. It's choosing growth over stagnation. It's choosing understanding over tribal purity. And trust me, it's a hell of a lot more empowering to be a thinking individual, even if you're alone in your thoughts, even if your beliefs are less rigid than they used to be, than to be a comfortable sheep in a perpetually screaming echo chamber. You want to be free? Then start by setting your own mind free. Pick up that hammer, smash the glass that's keeping you trapped. It's going to hurt, but the alternative is intellectual death, and that's a far more agonizing way to go. Do you have the guts for it? Or are you content to just keep screaming into your own self-made void? Choice, as always, my friends, is yours. So there it is. We've carved open the rotten core of what's happening to your mind and to our ability to even exist as a society. This was screaming in an echo chamber, the death of dialogue. We started by tearing down the walls of your digital cave, showing you how the algorithms and your own biases have chained you to a flickering screen, feeding you shadows that you mistake for reality. You're not seeing the world, you're seeing a highly curated, self-confirming projection of your own thoughts. Then we dragged you through Habermas's haunted house, the decaying remains of what was once called the public sphere. Remember that place? Where people could actually talk to each other, argue with reason and hash things out? It's gone. Replaced by fragmented digital bubbles where no one hears anything but their own echoes. We took a hard look at the comfort of conformity, the pathetic truth about why your brain, that lazy, pain-averse organ, loves being a sheep. It's easier to be right within your tribe than to be challenged in the chaotic real world. You trade intellectual growth for psychological ease and your mind atrophies in the process. And that comfort, that self-imposed blindness, leads to the brutal reality of the tribal divide. When us versus them becomes only us, when you demonize the other side so thoroughly that you can't even see their humanity, you fracture reality itself. Dialogue dies, and all that's left is screaming, accusation, and the terrifying paralysis of a society that can no longer agree on what's real, let alone how to fix anything. But we didn't just leave you in the wreckage, did we? Trying to get you out of it a bit. We ended up breaking the glass. We talked about the brutal, necessary act of picking up that hammer, the discomfort, the pain, the sheer intellectual courage it takes to actively seek out dissenting opinions, to embrace cognitive dissonance, to question your own most cherished beliefs and to truly listen to what you don't want to hear. This isn't about becoming a flip-flopping, indecisive idiot. It's about forging a stronger mind. A mind that can withstand the intellectual blows, that can grapple with complexity, that refuses to be programmed. It's about becoming a free thinker again, not just a loyal node in a controlled network. You want to keep yelling into the void? You want to keep basking in that artificial glow of your own self-affirming echo? You want to stay perfectly comfortable, perpetually right, and blissfully ignorant of anything that challenges your precious narratives? Be my guest. But don't come crying to me when the walls finally close in. Don't whine when you realize you've surrendered your capacity for genuine thought, for true connection, for navigating a world that refuses to conform to your digital fantasies. Don't come looking for answers when the only sound you hear is the scream of your own unchallenged thoughts, forever alone in your truth. This isn't a game. This is your mind, and they're trying to take it, not with overt force, but with comfort, with validation, with the seductive promise of certainty. They're selling you intellectual slavery wrapped in a bow of digital convenience. What are you going to do about it, Project Mayhem? Are you going to be a programmed puppet, a predictable cog in their machine? Or are you going to fight for your own thoughts? Are you going to keep screaming into the void? Or are you going to pick up the hammer and start smashing? Thank you for joining me on this little philosophical expedition today. You know that I deeply appreciate your presence and your attention. And if you found anything in this episode useful, or you think that someone else might find it interesting as well, then please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. Here comes that hideous marketing bullshit, because we have to do this, unfortunately. But we are on social media, as much as I loathe those platforms. You can find us on Instagram, on X, and on TikTok with the handle @TheObservingEye. We're on YouTube, where you can go and watch our videos, which is youtube.com/@TheObservingEye. And we've also got a beautiful website on Substack, which is theobservingeye.com. So all of those platforms, you can go and chat to us and engage and comment and all of the usual things that you can do with these social spaces. I've also got an email, which I'm not entirely sure is a good idea, but you can email me at david@theobservingeye.com with your questions or suggestions or anything you want to get off your chest about philosophy. Not therapy, I can't be your therapist, but I'm happy to field philosophical questions and existential horrors. That's all good. And I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can, which is normally within a day or so. Thanks everybody, take care, much love, and I'll catch you soon.